Today we are going to paint our cute little baby Groot. He's so adorbs and he has a little rocking out headphones on. So the colors that you need for this painting today is orange, green, blue, brown, white, and black. Also, the paintbrushes that you need are a teeny tiny detail brush and a medium size flat brush. I'll guide you which ones to use when. We are going to start with our Groot's face. So I'm going to take my teeny tiny brush and we're actually going to start with a light brown. So you're going to take some brown and some white and mix it together. We want the lighter version going on, so we'll use the darker straight brown later on. So teeny tiny brush, light brown, and I'm going to find the very middle of my canvas. Very middle, and then I'm going to go slightly higher the middle and make a dot. This is going to be his chin. So middle of the canvas, and then I went just slightly higher and I made a little dot. From there, we're going to make a wide V. So the width of his face is actually going to take up this middle third of the canvas. So I'm going to do a slight diagonal to the right and a slight diagonal to the left. So from there, we now have to go up the sides to give him some height on his face. So his head is actually going to stop about a quarter of the way down from the top. So if you want to make a little mark about a quarter of the way with your finger so you know where to stop, I'm going to start on the left side right here on my wide V, and I'm just going to go straight up and stop about a quarter of the way up. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. So remember, we're just sketching it out. So now something else to keep in mind, as we are painting, if you make any kind of an oops, you can erase it. So all you have to do is just rip off a little piece of your paper towel, you dip it in the water, squeeze it out until it's damp, and then you can take it right off. So if you make any kind of like a big whoops where his face is like way over here or something crazy, then you can erase it and fix it. All right, so from there, we have to make all of his little pieces of wood that are sticking up, his like hair, right? So each piece, he actually has 4 pieces, and each piece is about the same width. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do the ones that was my example, but if you want to add more hair, you want to do a different style, it really doesn't matter because it's Groot, so you could do any kind of style you want with his hair. So I'm going to start on the left-hand side. I'm still with my little brush and the light brown. And this one is going to start right here at the point, and I'm just going to kind of curve it in. So curve it down, just like that. All right, so then from there, I got to do the next one that's right next to him. This guy goes a lot higher. So I'm just going to go straight up just a little bit. So a little knob going straight up. Let me bring this closer so you can see. Little knob going straight up. And then from there, I'm just going to curve it up to a point. And it really doesn't matter how tall you go with this. It's really up to you. Okay, from there, I'm just going to curve it down. And then I'm going to curve it right back up to the right, a little scoop up. Okay, then these next 2 are going to be a little bit more jagged. So it's going to be a straight V, so it's a straight diagonal going down towards the right. And then the last guy is a shorter V, so I'm just going to go up just a little bit of diagonal. And then to finish it off, it's just a little scoop. So you could change it up, you could add more if you want, totally up to you. All right, so now we're gonna move on down. We're gonna put in his body. So his body's kind of curved because he's grooving and dancing. So on the left side of the chin, I'm gonna come out from that middle point, a little bit less than halfway on this line. I'm gonna make a little mark, just so I know where to start the body. Okay, so it was just a little bit less than halfway. I made a little mark. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side, a little bit less than halfway, make a little mark, just so I know where to go. So now from there, his body is curving towards the left. So this dot right here, I'm going to start right here and I'm going to do a little curve down, and it's going to stop about a quarter of the way up. So again, if you want to put your fingers there so you kind of know where to stop, say, okay, right about there. I'll stop his body. So from here, I'm going to curve out. Now his body isn't going to go any further out than where his head is. Okay, so it's a curve, but it's just kind of a slight curve. So I'm coming down, out to where his head is, and then bring it down. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on the right. It's also going to curve out to the left, but it's actually going to be slightly wider at the bottom. So it's going to start kind of thin. So I'm going to start curving out parallel to the body. And as I curve, right when I get near the bottom, I'm going to go out just a little bit. So that way the base is a little bit bigger than the top. So up to you. If you make him a little bigger, a little smaller, it's really not going to make that big of a difference. So now we're going to move to his arms. His arms are feeling the beat. So I'm going to start his right arm just right underneath where his body meets the head, right here in this corner. Okay, so it's just going to go straight out, and it's going to stop just a little bit past the head. So straight out to the right. It's going to stop just a little bit past the head. And then from there, it's going to make a sharp diagonal towards the right. So it's going to go up at a diagonal towards the right. All right, so now we need to go to the other side. And keep in mind, this is just the bones, right? We'll go back and make it thicker and get all fancy. All right, so now on the left side, it's going to start just slightly below where the neck meets the body. And it's going to go just at a slight diagonal going down. And again, you want to make it about the same length as your other arm. And then from there, it's just going to go straight out. All right, so now before we go back and make it thicker and fill it in, we got to do one more step on the arms or the hands, right? So the hands are pretty simple. Right here, I'm going to go pull this closer so you can see. On the right, you're actually going to make it go up just at a slight diagonal. It's going to be longer on the top. And then I'm going to have a little dash coming out that's a little shorter. That's all it is. Okay, so longer on the top coming out and then a shorter guy coming in. So the same thing is going to happen on the left side. So we're going to have a longer one coming out, and then you got a short little guy poking out on the bottom, little hand. All right, so now your job is to go back. We're going to thicken up the arms. You're going to fill in the head and the body, and this is all with this light tan color. So when you're going into the bigger areas, if you want to go to your bigger brush, that's good. It kind of depends on the size of your canvas. You have a small little canvas, it's easier for you to use your small brush. That's cool too. I'm not going too crazy with my arms. I'm keeping them pretty thin because he's just a little guy. I like to keep him kind of petite. And notice too on the face, I'm just kind of rounding, softening up those edges. So instead of having it kind of pokey, I'm just kind of softening up, kind of curving it around. And my chin is lost, but you'll see it again when we put in the details. All right, so now we're going to move on to his little pot that he's sitting in. So we're going to take the small little brush, and we're going to dip it in the blue. And right where his body is, right where it ends, we're going to do a slight little smiley face. So it's going to go out a little bit past where his body is to go for how wide we want our pot. So it's just a slight little smiley face. Little scoop. And then from there, we got to make a diagonal line down towards the bottom. So we're going to leave about 1 inch from the bottom of your canvas. I'm going to do a slight diagonal coming in on the left and a slight diagonal coming in on the right. So we did our little diagonal lines coming down towards the center, and then at the bottom, you're just going to do a parallel scoop like you did on the top, but obviously it's going to be smaller because we're connecting these two edges. So just a little parallel scoop. And then to add dimension, we need to show that he's actually in the pot. So right here on the left, I'm going to start curving it like I'm doing a frowny face, but obviously I'm not going to go over my Groot, starting on the left. So I'm going to start curving in and then curve to connect on the right. Okay, so from there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill in just this front part of the pot. We're not going to fill in these little sides, not yet anyways. So we're just going to fill in this whole section with blue, just straight blue. And I'm doing these horizontal strokes because what's going to happen is later on we're going to add a highlight. So it's going to really help out when you have a similar stroke going on. So when I'm doing this little scoops, I'm following the same shape as the top of my pot, and it's going to help with making it look a little bit more three-dimensional. Now, once you're done filling in just this front part with straight blue, then this little side portion right here of his pot, taking my little brush and I'm making a dark blue because it's going to be shaded in there, right? It's on the inside. So I'm just going to fill this in with my dark blue. So blue and black mix, and you don't need a ton of it, it's just for the inside. So we did blue and black mix for the inside of the pot. All right, so we're gonna go back to Groot. We have our teeny tiny brush, and now we're gonna use brown, just straight brown, to put in our details. We're gonna start on the head. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to outline his whole head. So now keep in mind that when you want to make a thin line, the lighter you touch your canvas, the thinner your line will be. If you smush your paintbrush into the canvas, it's going to be fat and crazy. So you want to try to be really light to the touch and you'll get a nice thin line. So we're going to give him back his chin. And we're just going to outline just the whole head. And it's just a really light outline. So what I mean by that is it doesn't have to be solid all the way around. It could just be kind of wispy, so it gives it the idea that it's outlined. That's fine too. And lightly outlining his cool hair. All right, so once you're done outlining the head, now we're gonna add the little details, like little cracks in his head. So I'm gonna start on his chin, and I'm gonna go towards the left, and a little bit more than halfway, I'm gonna do just a little dash going in. So a little bit more than halfway, right along this line, I'm gonna do a little dash going in. Little dash. Then I'm gonna go over more towards the left, almost all the way at the end, and do another little dash. So these little cracks in his face. So we're gonna do the same thing on the right side. So it's gonna be a little bit more than halfway over. I'm gonna do a little dash. And then almost all the way on the right side, I'm gonna do another little dash going in. Now we're gonna work our way to the top and put the little cracks in the hair. So this first guy right here on the left has a little curve coming down right in the middle, just a little teeny guy. Little teeny curve coming right in that middle part. Then I'm gonna go to this little crack and I'm gonna make it just a little bit longer. So moving on to the second guy going in, just along this curve, I'm gonna have two dashes coming down. So I have one coming down right here, give it another space, and then there's gonna be another guy coming in, slight diagonal. So up to you if you want to make them more pronounced, whatever you want. All right, so now this little section right here in between these two guys in the middle, this is in a little kind of an interesting part. So it goes straight down. We're going to make this a little bit more pronounced. So we're going to do a little line coming down. But then after just a little bit, we're going to curve it to the right. That's a little crack. And go to the right and then down again. Then this next guy has a little dash right before the next crack. Little dash coming down, and then accentuate this little opening right here just a little bit. And then right in between this line right here, right before the very end, I'm going to do another little dash going down. Now we're going to go straight to the body. So on the body, he has all these different pieces of wood that are all twisted and turned. And so I'm not going to guide you for every little one, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So the main idea is that you have two guys that are twisting around him because it kind of emphasizes that he's dancing. So we'll do those together. So it's kind of like a sash. The first one's going to start right here where his left shoulder starts, and it's going to curve around to just a little bit above the bottom. So I'm going to start here. I'll put this in first and I'll show you. It's going to curve around like a sash. Curve, 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 and it's going to stop just a little bit above the bottom. All right, so now each time we put another piece of wood in, you want to have a complete closed piece. So meaning you don't want any parts that aren't outlined. So I'm going to come right back here where I started. I'm going to come down just a little bit to the width that I want for my piece of wood. And then I'm going to go parallel to my little curve I just did. Parallel, parallel, all the way to the end. And then right here where it's finished, right here on the right side of the body, I'm going to do a little scoop. The next one we're going to do is going to start halfway down the left side of his body. And this guy is going to curve right into just the bottom, but just a little bit in from the right. So I'm going to start here on the left-hand side. I'm going to make a little dot where I want to start. And I'm just going to curve this guy around. Curve, 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 and then stop near the bottom. So I started halfway down the left side, scooped it, and then stopped just a little bit in from the right side on the bottom. Okay, from there we need to make it look like it's a piece of wood sticking out, right? It's a separate piece. So we're going to do a slight little scoop, little bump right here on the outside, however thick you want it to be. And then I'm going to go parallel. And now this guy you can start making a little bit wider as it gets near the bottom. So I'm going along here and then scoop out just a little bit early. So you should have two guys going at a diagonal. So you could add more of those guys if you want. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add all the little pieces that are inside. So this is where you kind of do it on your own, but I'm going to show you how. So all you're going to do is you're going to just do little pieces of wood. So you're going to make little wigglies, right? So a little wiggly here. And then I'm going to do another wiggly, come down and meet it. And then you could even have a guy going to the diagonal. And you're just going to fill in this whole thing with a bunch of different chunks of wood, right? So different lines. So you want them all to be going though underneath these two diagonal pieces that we put in. Okay, so be creative in how you do it, but it really is not going to matter too much in what you're doing. So I'm just going to do like little shapes. You can pull them down to connect. You do another guy going out. So just have fun with it. Make sure though at each side you're kind of doing a little bit of a scoop so it looks like it's a piece of wood. So you could do whatever you want. Just have fun filling in all the different pieces. So it's just for the body for right now. So you have just a bunch of different pieces of wood all twisted together. All right, so now once you're done putting in all your craziness inside his body, now we're going to move on to his arms and hands. So we're just going to lightly outline his arms. And now while I'm doing that, remember I said that when I say lightly, it just means it's not a solid line. I'm actually going to do a few bumps in there, just kind of give him a little bit of definition. So just a few bumps in his arm, just to make it look like he has a little bit of muscles kind of going on. Poor little baby Groot. And then look, I'm just lightly pulling through along the edge this brown. So because it's wood, it's okay that's a little rough on the edges, right? I'm gonna do the same thing on the other arm. Okay, so once you're done outlining the arms, we're gonna add just a little bit of shading to our Groot. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of white to my brown, not nearly as much as I did when I made our original light brown. So just a little teeny bit of white mixed in. And now underneath his neck, where his neck meets his body, we're just gonna pull down just a few strokes into the wood. So in between my lines, I'm putting the slightly darker tone, just a few strokes in there just to make it look like there's some shade. So I'm not covering up my brown lines, but I'm adding just a little bit of strokes just on the lighter part, okay? Then I'm also going to put it right here where his shoulder is. I'm just gonna pull some of that darker tone just right into his arms, just along where his shoulders would be. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing on this bottom section. So again, we're not covering up our dark brown, just a few strokes coming up, and it's gonna be on that light part of the wood. We gotta be a little fancy here, right? A little bit of shading. And then the last place you're gonna put some of that darker tone is every so often on your pieces of wood. If you want to make it look like it's underneath a piece, like for example, this guy right here, I'm gonna add just a little bit of shading right here to make it look like this guy is on top of it. So just every so often, you could add just a little bit of a darker tone into parts of your wood. But again, we're not covering up that outline. So I'm just doing it in a few spots. I'm not going crazy. And so now with that same color that we just made for the shading, I'm going to take my big brush and I'm going to kind of mix a little bit of water in there, just so that way it's not super thick. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put some ground down here on the base of our pot, right? We don't want it to be floating. So just a little bit higher than where the bottom is, I'm just going to do a horizontal line, going to the left and going to the right. And then I'm just going to fill in just around the base. And I'm just going to pull in these little horizontal strokes. So it kind of gives it the idea that it's there, but we're teasing because we're not really putting the whole thing in. Okay, so we did the shading. Now we need to do just a little bit of a highlight. So now I'm mixing some white with my brown to make it where it's even lighter than our original color. So it's going to be more white than brown. Okay, so we want to make sure that it stands out from the original color that we used. And all I'm going to do is along this left side of his head, I'm just going to pull down just a few strokes of this lighter color. So again, I'm not really covering much, and I make sure that you're doing it vertically because it helps it look like you're sticking with the grains of wood. So you're going to have different tones coming in. You guys, this is fancy. We're adding a bunch of shading in. We're not messing around with Groot. So just the left side of each one of his pieces of hair. Just a nice little highlight in there. And then a little bit down the right side. Now we are going to move on to his headphones. They're so cute. So we're taking our little brush. We're going to dip it in the orange. Now right in the middle of your line on the left. Okay, that's where we're going to put his headphones. So now you can decide how wide or how tall you want your headphones to be. If you want them to be humongous, that's your choice. I'm just going to do a vertical line for how big I want my headphones to be. So this is with straight orange, right here in the middle of the head on the left side. So right outside the head. Okay, so from there, I'm going to make a big scoop for my headphones. Scoop. And then I'm going to fill her in. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So you want to go directly across, put in your vertical line for how big you want your headphones to be, and then a nice big scoop, and fill her in. All right, we'll go back and make them fancy in a second. But in the meantime, we're going to put in a little gray holder that puts the headphones together. What is that called? I don't know, but it's part of the headphones, the gray part. All right, so we're gonna take a little bit of white and a little bit of black. We're gonna make a light gray. And with that light gray in the very middle on the outside of your headphones, you're gonna make a little bump. So I'm gonna make a little horizontal line and give it a little bump. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on the right. Right in the middle, give it a little bump. Now from there, we got to connect this gray dot with this gray dot. So you're going to go up and you're going to curve it around and make sure you're going behind the hair, right? So if you are getting close, make sure you're curving behind. So I'm lightly going around. So I just lightly put in gray to connect both sides of his headphones. Okay, and you're going to go back, you're going to thicken it up just a little bit. You don't want to get too crazy with how thick it is. And these are supposed to be like 80s headphones. They were pretty thin. So then once you make it slightly thicker, now we're going to go back with some black and we're going to pull it through to give it some definition. So I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush. I'm going to dip it in the black. And I'm going to first start with the gray. So I'm going to come really close, this little gray part that's sticking out. I'm going to just outline just the bottom part and the side that's touching my orange, just like that. So I outline this part that's getting my orange and just the bottom little scoop. Okay, then I'm going to do a little line, a little dash right in the middle. I'm going to do the same thing on the right. So I'm lining with my black, just the part that's touching my orange, then the outside bottom, and then just a dash right through the middle. So now once I'm done with that, I'm just going to lightly pull through the black in my light gray. So just a few dashes in the light gray. I'm going to go all the way around. All right, so while we still have the black on our brush, we're going to mix some black with some orange. So remember, the black is really potent. So it's mainly orange with just a smidge of black. So we got to add some shading to our headphones. So we're just going to outline, just like how we did this outside part of the gray, we're going to just outline just this little bottom scoop of the headphones of the orange, bottom scoop, and I'm just going to go right in where it meets the head and just kind of blend that little piece in. So it gives it a little bit of a shading. We're going to do the same thing on the right. We'll scoop and connect. And then just a little line right here on the far edge. So by the left on the left and the right on the right. It's like little dashes. Little dash on the left and little dash on the right. All right, ready to put in the eyeballs. Yeah, it's big eyeballs. So if you want to do a different style of eye, that's okay too. I'm just going to do the big black ones. So you want them to be right in the same alignment as your headphones. So I'm going to come in just a little bit. I'm going to put in my black circle. Now it's always better to start smaller. You could always go bigger. All right, so we got two big black eyes. Okay, while we still have the black in our hands, on our brush, we're gonna put in some notes. So I'm gonna show you two different kinds of notes, and you can put however many notes you want. So we're gonna put in eighth notes, which all you do is a little diagonal line. So find out where you wanna put it. A little diagonal line, just like that. And then on either end, you're gonna do a little dash coming straight down. And then from there, you're gonna do these little circles on the left of those lines, the left bottom. So 1, 2. Okay, you got your eighth notes. Where all you do is a little dash coming down, a little circle on the left side, and then on the top of your little vertical line, you're just gonna do a little flick to the right. Flick, just like that. So you could add as many as you would like around your painting. All right, so we just put some notes all around his head. Awesome. All right, so now we got to put some of the green in. So I'm gonna have my little brush, and now all I'm gonna do is along the top of his head, I'm gonna pull a few strokes of green coming down, just really lightly. Just every so often, I'm pulling just a little bit of the green down from the top. Remember, we're always doing vertical. We also need to add some little leaves coming off. So wherever you want to add a leaf, we're going to put it in. So for example, on the arm, I'm going to have a little leaf coming out. So I'm going to do a little teardrop shape. So scoop to a point, and then scoop it right back and fill it in. Okay, so we're just putting the leaves in right now. We're going to go back and make them attach to the body a little bit better. So I'm going to put another two guys up here, one on the top and then one on the bottom. I'll put two guys over here on the left. So it's however many you want to add. It really won't matter. It's just adding a little bit of color to them. A little leaf on the right. And I'll have one guy on his body just cuz. Okay, so when you're done putting in the leaves to connect them, I'm going to go back to my brown. And I'm just going to pull it down to the body. So with this brown, I'm going to start at the bottom of my leaf, so in that little fat part, and I'm just going to bring it around the arm like a little scoop. So it looks like he has a little vine coming up. Right, so we'll do the same thing for this guy. Start at the bottom, a little scoop around, scoop down. So it just makes it where it looks like it's attached to the body. Same thing with here. I'm just going to do a little string coming out, little vine, just so they're not floating in midair. And then while we still have the brown, we got to put in his mouth. So I'm just going to do a simple smiley face for him. You could do whatever you want. Now we're going to go back to our pot. We're going to use the light blue. So I have my small brush. I'm making a light blue, so a little bit of blue, a little bit of white. Now remember at the beginning when we first put it in, I was saying we're going to go along with the strokes of the actual pot, so it's going horizontal. So now we're putting that back in, just back and forth, just along this middle part. So I'm going all the way down with my light blue. So give it a nice highlight. And then continuing with that light blue, just along these edges, I'm going to put in little outline. So light blue just along the edge. So along the top left and the top right, and it just scoops around. So it gives it a nice little highlight for our pot. All right, so also we have our little light blue coming in from the sides. So I'm just doing a very little bit. It's very subtle. You don't even have to if you don't want to, but I like a little something. So just light blue, and with my big brush, I'm just coming in just about an inch. It's not a lot. So just about an inch on either side, all the corners, the bottom, top. And then to blend it, I'm cleaning my brush. I'm going to go to the straight white, And right where the light blue meets my canvas, I'm going to put that straight white on it, and I'm going to go back and forth over it just to blend it in, so it just softens it right up. So it's just a nice light little tint. We are near the last step, so we're going to go back to our white. So now we got to add in all the white. So first place for the white is going to be on the headphones. So on the left headphone, I'm going to come in just a little bit from the top, and I'm just going to do a little curved line. It's going to be a cool little highlight. Same thing on the right, curved around. And then the last place we're going to put the white are in the eyeballs. So in each black eyeball, we're going to do a white circle on the top left and a white circle on the bottom right. So the one in the top left is going to be bigger than the one on the bottom right. I have a bigger white circle and then a smaller white circle. Just like that. I'm going to do the other one, same thing. So if you want to add a little highlight to your leaves, you can. All is just a little dot on each leaf. So a little white dot, because it's just a little bit of a highlight. And that is it. You have your Groot. So cute. So I would love to see your finished products. Please, please tag us on Instagram and Facebook. It's hashtag #SplashArtClass, @SplashArtClass. We would love to see them. Also, please always check back on our website. We're always adding new live classes. If you have any suggestions for new live classes, we'd love to hear them and to add them to our calendar. Also, if you miss any classes, we always are adding them to our on-demand as well. So feel free to peruse and look around and enjoy your painting. Thank you. Mwah.